coming tonight to learn a little bit more about your city. I hope when you leave, there's a lot of things you know, but you may come out and know a few more things about your city that are going to make you pretty proud. I'm proud to provide an update, and first I'm going to go through an overview of 2022, and then tell you what we have to look forward to for 2023. So 2022 has been a recovery year for the city. Everybody on the planet's coming out of a pandemic, and so our city has done well, but what was affected most, I would say, is Parks and Rec. Programming was almost nothing during COVID because of restrictions on proximity and things like that. But now, I'm proud to say we have an increase of 24% from 2021 in our rec center programming. Rec center memberships are almost back to pre-pandemic levels after a 90% increase in 2021. Senior Services Program is recovering nicely with a 63% increase from 2021, and Colonial Park memberships are above pre-pandemic levels by 13.5%. I think everybody wants to get out and enjoy that. So overall, as a community and as an organization, we fared well through the pandemic. We didn't really have revenue problems. We're not sales tax driven, as we'll discuss later. So we were able to weather that, and I want to thank all the staff that stayed through and provided essential services, and for the residents who persevered through it and understood us through these uncharted times. Right, we'll talk about public safety. At the top of everyone's list, I think, during campaigns, doing what you're going to see as our citizen surveys, public safety. And we've done, sorry, I'm short and the mic has a small reach. I'll tell you what we did in 2022 to enhance safety and make Westview a better place for people to want to come work here. We added a public safety step pay plan for compensation. This helps us recruit because other police and fire departments have that, and when people are looking for a job, they want to be able to compare. We didn't have that before. So that's something internal we may not have known, but that's something we've done to try to bring in the best people to serve our residents. We completed the virtual gate project, which has been going on since 19, I believe. We started it in my last term as mayor, and it's been operational since June 1st, 2021. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later and how it's functioned for us, but it's been really amazing. We have upgrades to our dispatch software, CAD software, which provides the following benefits. This is another thing, and I'll point it out every time. There's some things residents are it's gonna pop out and they know, and some things you're just gonna be getting better service, and things we've spent and done and taken care of on the back end. The dispatch software upgrade is better integration between federal, state, and local databases, as well as our own internal databases for alarm monitoring and house watch. It reduces redundancy of information being entered and stored. Before it was in multiple systems, and we've been able to eliminate a lot of that. We've had it customized to our operations and needs. It increases the security of information being stored, and I know we get questions about that because people, rightfully so, are worried about information in any database, and you see places hacked all the time, but our new software is really good about security. And we are almost to a paperless process. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get away from paper. As a lawyer, I can tell you it's really hard for me to get away from paper, but we've been able to do a lot of that with our new software. Next, we have restructured our command staff. One thing that I think is important, and I think everyone would think so, is succession planning in an organization. And you can have the best fire chief, the best police chief, but you need people 2-3 steps below that know the city, that you feel will be competent in case of a planned retirement or unplanned retirement. So we have improved our succession planning, increased our command level depth, 2 positions were reclassified to lieutenant, and these positions provide entry-level positions for officers moving from patrol to our command staff. In 2024, we're going to complete this restructuring with the creation of a police captain and an assistant chief position. One thing I hope most of you noticed, and if you haven't, I will invite you to take part in a few things that will help you. We have a community resources officer, Katie Wilson. She's back there. Give everybody a wave, Katie. If you have seen us on social media, I think in prior years, and this was very important to me, when something would happen in the community, people would panic, call, not know what was going on. Katie is on it so quickly. You're able to go on the website, you can see it on Facebook, you can see it on Instagram, things that have happened. She's also done a lot of neighborhood outreach, cops on the ground. She does crafts with cops, cookies with cops, coffee with cops, bingo with badges, which is coming up. I'll be there. It's a full house every time. You get to meet everyone. National Night Out, Child ID and fingerprinting. They host a booth at city events, and we look forward to 2023. We also have a community email that we send out on that, and she can tell you how to get signed up on it. I'm on it, and it really keeps you informed. 2020, quality of life. Another thing I think people move to West U for. That's what makes West U enjoyable to live in. We know it's safe, but then next up, just how we live our life. Let's talk about parks. Judson Park improvements. Judson, over in the chimney, we made a number of improvements, including repainting the play structures, replacing the artificial safety turf that wears out after a while, resurfacing the tennis courts, and adding, probably everyone can say it with me, pickleball lines. That is really an amazing growth phase, and people like it. We even, if you see the stripes in here, we have had senior classes, and they come and play pickleball in here. I worked in on it yesterday. But we still have the tennis line, so they can share a court. We installed a child favorite, Gaga ball pit, and we fixed up some other amenities and added LED lighting. And I couldn't go without thanking Plans for that. I'm sure everybody knows what Plans is, but we have a captive 501c3 that raises money and refreshes parks and makes them, keeps them in great shape, and I just can't thank them enough. We have addressed commercial parking in residential areas. For most of West U, that's not a problem. We're a residential city of homes. On Kirby, there were some businesses that were utilizing residential streets to park visitors, park employees, and we worked with them and ordinances to keep that from happening. So when people pull out, they don't have a car, but a street full of cars. And I think that's worked out well. The businesses comply and the residents have been happy about it. One thing I did notice, I know when I came into the office, we were getting a lot of calls about parking enforcement and animal control. And if people think that's a problem, it's because our animal control and parking enforcement officer retired, and we spent some time trying to find the right person, because that's a niche job. So we created a new position for animal control and parking enforcement, and we moved these duties from Public Works to Police Department. And before, they were handled by one code enforcement officer. So we have continuity of service. You can call the police non-emergency number. Put that in your phone, 713-668-0330. It goes straight to dispatch. But on the weekends, when you have a problem like that, go ahead and call them. The new position reinforces our commitment to a safe and enjoyable neighborhood by enforcing parking, responsible pet ownership, and allowing our code enforcement officer to focus only on code-related issues. If that makes sense, we have the code enforcement officer doing it all, and it was stretching the thin. Okay, fiscally responsible city, we are. We lowered our property tax rates for the 4th year in a row. West U has one of the lowest rates in Harris County for a full-service city, while maintaining our service level on a balanced budget. I'll speak to the tax rates a little later in this presentation, but if you look at that second board, you'll see benchmark cities in the county tax rates, and we're the light colored one. So, in Parks and Rec operations, we've hired a consultant to work with staff to complete a thorough review of our Parks and Rec services. If you go too long offering a lot of services, sometimes it's good to have someone step back and see what we're doing, see if we have gaps or see if we're overlapping things, and try to streamline it and make the pie bigger for everybody. Information from this review will be beneficial in helping the city understand what we're doing well and what we need to improve, as well as the business side. So we'll know like the granular costs on just about anything we're providing. The goal will be information used by residents, staff, and council to make informed decisions about everything related to Parks and Rec. So I think we're going to have a lot of good things come out of that. Something I'd like to talk about is one thing I am among others as a CPA, our audit. The city received a clean audit report this year with no findings and adjustments from my independent auditor. This ensures that the information used by staff and council to make decisions for our residents is accurate. So I'd like to thank Marie Kalka. She's our finance director back there for making that possible. Transparency could go under financial, but I think it's important to put it separately. I want to highlight some additional measures when we go above and beyond just having clean financials. The generally accepted accounting principles, we received a certificate of achievement for financial reporting, which recognizes agencies who go above the minimum standards by providing transparency and disclosure in presenting our financials. And you can find those on the website, and they're pretty easy to understand, even if you're not a CPA. The second is the Distinguished Budget Award, which recognizes local governments that present a budget that incorporates GFOA. Marie, will you stand up and tell everybody what GFOA stands for?
On the finance, I'm standing. Basically, GFOA is the Government Finance Officers Association, so it's an organization. Canada and the United States are part of it, and it basically is our guidelines that we belong to that basically gives us best practices and a lot of financial information that we can kind of brainstorm together with.
We got Distinguished Budget Award for them and National Advisory Council on State and Local Budget Guidelines. These measures ensure our annual operating budget is transparent and goes beyond just providing numbers and creates one document that residents, investors, staff, and council can use to make informed decisions about city operations and finance. Residents want to know where their money's going. Investors, those are our bond investors, and we want them to be able to, we want to keep our great rating, which we have the highest bond rating out there, and staff and council, so they know what they're spending their money on and what they, where their budget, what they can budget. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later. We did a citizen satisfaction survey very recently. I hope all of you took it. Not every agency that does these types of surveys or actively solicits feedbacks from the residents, but it's an important tool because it's very easy to sit back and say, well, we're not hearing anything from anybody, so if we're doing it wrong, then tell us. This allows us to see where our strengths are, what people really care about, and where we need to improve. We received a good response to our survey and helpful feedback, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. We do have a chart up there on it. Improvements to communications. This has been a priority for me in the past. I know when I first got onto council, it was 2011, and our sole means of communication was we mailed you something, and if you needed something, you came up or you called. And you can still do that, but we have stepped it up quite a bit. Bianca is our communications director. She won Employee of the Year this year. We want information to be easily accessible in the way anybody here wants to get it. If you want to go to the website, it's there. If you want it in the mail, you've got it. If you want to go to Facebook, if you want to go to Instagram, people have different windows to the world, and we get it there, we get it fast, and it's accurate, and it's interactive. Improvements to our redesigned website, content of our newsletter, and the information that's coming from the city on a weekly basis has increased its accessibility, and we've received a lot of positive feedback. I know that we get positive feedback, but I also know being available myself for questions and comments that people have or concerns, I get fewer of it because they're able to find it themselves. And afterwards, I can show you some tricks for getting more information than you currently get right on your phone. Okay, another thing that everyone finds important, and our survey showed that as well, is infrastructure. One thing our city does, we do a lot, is maintain our infrastructure. You see a lot of cities, neighboring cities, cities all over the country, they put off keeping things nice. And then a big bond comes up because everything's falling apart. Westview doesn't do it that way with parks or with anything. First, we sidewalks. I see people walking in the street. Sometimes we hear, hey, sidewalks a little bumpy. Westview sidewalks aren't that bumpy, but we did a survey of our sidewalks, and we identified which ones were in need of repair or replacement. If you hadn't gotten your sidewalk replaced yet or fixed, we just hadn't gotten there. In 2022, we implemented the first of 3 phases to correct these identified deficiencies. Phase 1 was primarily between Wake Forest and Kirby and some areas toward Buffalo Speedway. Phase 2 is underway, and Phase 3 will be in 2024. If you missed your sidewalk, please let us know, because we definitely want to stay a walkable city. I will do a plug for Click Westview. If you don't have the city app, you should download it. If you don't have Click Westview, you can go to Google or Apple Store, you go to Go Request, download it, and if you see a broken sidewalk, anything, you can put it in there. It gets sent to the city, it gets a tracking number, and you get a reply from the city. That's how I report things. And I check on it every once in a while, but if I'm on a walk and I see something, I stop. It pinpoints where you're standing, and it's amazing response. So if you haven't downloaded it, download it. We've also done a street condition assessment, similar to our sidewalks assessment. We have great streets compared to other cities, but the 2023 budget, it has funds for repairs identified in this assessment. And again, if Westview, let us know if we have not seen something. One thing you're not going to pay attention to is storm sewers, but we have inspected our storm sewers and we're cleaning them. Storm sewers are supposed to be self-cleaning. Big flood washes everything through, but sometimes they don't. A couple of years ago, we bought a new camera system to check all our underground sewers, and we do that. We want to make sure they're free of obstruction, that can hinder the performance of the system. So that's what we're doing our part. For your part, make sure leaves and grass clippings don't go in there and get forced into the storm system, or before a storm, put the trash in. We completed a video inspection of storm sewers from Community to Westland, and these routine inspections just help us identify issues. There may be a crack in a tree or something really stuck in there, and we can get them while they're small. Upgrades to our water system control. I think we find this important. Otherwise known as SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. These upgrades provide staff with the ability to monitor, receive alerts, make certain changes to the system remotely, as well as enhancing reporting. On the next slide, we're going to discuss the success of this upgrade. We'll give you an example and what it means to the residents. I think everybody remembers this recently. Houston's boil water notice. That was in November. We did not have to boil. Every street except for the 41 and 4200 block of law, our northernmost street in the Chimney, which is still connected to City of Houston, were unaffected. I know I speak for council, and I want to commend staff for their quick and decisive action that prevented Westview from having to issue a boil water notice. and preventing the disruption to our residents. And I think all y'all are pretty happy about that too. I can't remember the last time we had a boil notice. We avoided it in Uri, we avoided it in Harvey. But what you may not know, the behind-the-scenes upgrade, that SCADA system that we're made to our water system, these provided the tools to our quick-thinking staff to be able to shut off water to the city of Houston, test it right away, and issue the all clear. And they can remotely access these things. So this is one of the type of government spending that people don't know, but they sure appreciate it when the time comes. Capital projects are always interesting. People do see a lot of those. We completed a facilities master plan, identifying long-term locations for facilities prior to completing any upgrades and improvements. And before I get into that any further, because there's 4 phases, anything that's public facing that we would consider implementing on this, we will have ample town hall meetings, resident input, and things like that. But phase 1, public works facility. We're actually in the process of engineering that. We have property. It's over by the Good Company Seafood. We've had it, it's been underutilized, unused for years. It used to be the Recycle Express for part of it, and we store trucks and things on there now. We have design underway with construction expected in October 2023, and I'm going to tell you why this is a good thing. The current public works facility, which can't handle all of our maintenance requirements, we do have to outsource some, is right here in the middle of the city. You see it with the concertina wire around it and things. And at first blush, you think, well, I guess we could leave it here. But then if you think around the other way, what if Jiffy Lube said, hey, we're going to put a place right here in the middle of the city? I think we'd probably have protests down the street. So the new facility will provide a state-of-the-art building for streets and drainage operations, fleet maintenance. We fix our own trucks and we maintain them, which keeping it in-house really keeps the cost down. And we can keep trucks for, Dave, how long's some of our older trucks?
We just got rid of some 2002s.
Yeah, I mean, we refurbished the whole thing. I mean, they have so many miles on it, it's just amazing. Facilities maintenance will be there, traffic operations, water and sewer operations, and park maintenance, which right now has space over in the rec center. We have some space for resident services. Solid waste recycling and yard waste operations. This will replace a building in the middle of the city that was built in the 50s, and we've redone it once, but if you took a tour of it, it's not bad, but when you have to open doors with a rope and people are crammed in, and have to move between different buildings to get things done, it'll allow them to do so much more, have a nicer quality of work, but be able to provide better services for everybody. So that is a building that's important, but probably not on the top of everybody's mind. However, I know what is on a lot of people's mind, virtual gate. I'm really excited about this, as I mentioned. The completion of this project started during my prior term as mayor. The high-tech solution provides us with a virtual gate surrounding the city and alerting our police department of vehicles and drivers who are coming into the city driving stolen vehicles, using stolen plates, or having warrants. On a more human note, it has provided assistance in locating missing persons. People who have a silver alert out for them, we found them. And in the last 3 months, we've had 10 hits for missing persons that we found. So I personally think it's great. Lastly, the system provides our police department with another tool for investigating crimes that do happen, and I want to speak about 2 of these success stories. On August 17th, 2022, there was a jegging incident. At 12:15, officers responded to a robbery of a resident that had just occurred. The victim had just left their bank after making a withdrawal and were followed in by the suspects. Within 20 minutes of the crime, officers using virtual gate system identified the vehicle. And the suspects were identified using our system. These people were already in the city of Houston. The information gathered by WestU is beneficial to our neighboring agencies in investigating some of the cases attributed to these suspects. They found out they were they had been involved in a lot of crime, so they were able to pick these people up. A bank robbery on October 10th, 2022. Officers responded to a bank robbery on the 4,000 block of Bel Air. The suspect walked into the bank, handed them a note, demanding money, and left. Officers were able to identify the suspect using the virtual gate system, and this was the suspect himself, and other public and private camera systems. Collaborative efforts from Houston, FBI Task Force Bel Air and Weston resulted in identifying the suspect in their arrest on October 20. He was also a suspect in other bank robberies in the area. And I can tell you how granular it is. I'll give a little color to it. The guy walked into the bank, took the money, went to the gas station, bought some cigarettes with it, got on the Metro bus, and left, and we still found him. So it's an amazing tool. I mean, we've caught kidnapped victims, arms, weapons, stolen cars. And Chief Walker said, this is going to be great. It's going to take some, make it a little bit easier for our police, because somebody's going to have to sit there and run plates. You don't know what you don't know until you have something like that, what's around your city. But I think it's making us a lot safer. All right, Buffalo Speedway Street and Drainage Project. I am pleased to say it is substantially complete. The roadway is replaced, the drainage has been installed, and it's working. You may see the crews installing brick pavers at 3 major intersections. While those look nice, they also give a visual that this is a place where someone might walk across the street. I think it's a safety measure as well as a beauty measure. But this is a success story because the roadway was 60 years old and the drainage system was 80 years old. It drained out about 50% of the capacity of the city of Houston, and we replaced it by 2 8x8 culverts underneath, box culverts, so we are able to move a lot more water a lot faster. What year event does this handle now? 50-year event. Yeah, you can. Afterwards, please go take a look at everything. And just to understand the time it can take to do something like this, and I mean not hammers and shovels, but to envision it, get the money for it and put it in place. This project started in 2015 when the city applied for grant funding, and 7 years later we're almost complete. The grant funding requirements and federal and state approval didn't allow us to start design of the project until 2019. As mentioned, the roadway will be reopened by the end of January, and all site remediations, meaning people's yards that have been torn out, things like that, will be completed by March. So I say great job to staff for seeing this project through, and to our residents who have been very patient in the inconvenience with this. Drainage improvements. East side, east of Buffalo. This is the second major drainage project underway in the city, which will construct improvements to drainage and also replace portions of the street that were not replaced in the 1990-2000 infrastructure program. So new streets too. The good news is the city received a $5.38 million grant funding due to the timing on spending and the grant funding. So we broke, to enable us to use it, we had to break the project into 2 packages. Because once you get the money, you have to spend it within a certain amount of time. University between Buffalo to Kirby, we're waiting on the Texas Government Land Office to notify Harris County that the grant funds can be released to Harris County, subsequent approval. And once we receive their approval, City Council will approve construction contract and get the work underway. We were told the GLO and Harris County approvals will be in February, so we can get started on that. Now that Buffalo's closed, the university might be closed, but I think everyone's for better drainage, so, and new streets. Package 2, Duke Street from Buffalo to Kirby, and if you don't know where it all is, we got maps. And Wake Forest to Plum, and Duke to Rice from Wake Forest to Kirby. The construction documents are expected to be complete by June, with construction expected to begin in August. And again, once we receive approval from GLO and Harris County, we'll approve the contract and get these underway. So I'm really excited about that. We're not just fixing the east side, west side drainage. This is the third project underway to address drainage, and this is on the west side, and we're in the preliminary phases, which evaluates options to improve the drainage system that was for most part installed in the 1940s. It will also replace those streets not replaced during the 1990-2000 infrastructure program. So again, new streets. The main improvements are improvements to stormwater lines in the city, creating detention on city-owned property. The rec center fields and the Colonial Park fields are what we're considering underneath, and which will help drainage system perform better. And don't worry, the fields in both areas will be restored to be better than they are now. And I think it's probably a time for a refresh for both of those. So refresh and detention. And there is serious talk about a new stormwater main, a trunk line, that could be handled maybe from 10 to 100 years from our city straight to to Brays Bayou, which would be an amazing thing for our city to be able to move that much water out. But that's forthcoming. The report will be completed in March, and council will be considering construction design by summer. The actual construction will be dependent upon a future bond program and funding. So that's something that will be coming to the residents. All right, I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. Sale of Rufino Hills property. This is something also that most residents don't know about because it's not adjacent to Westview. Westview had a dump that we share with Bel Air, and it's on the corner, southwest corner of south northeast. Okay, let me see the picture of 59 and Beltway 8, and it was, I think we used it in the 50s. We closed it, capped it for a short time. We had a 9-hole golf course on there, but it didn't make any money. And it sat empty for 20 years. And over the years, the cities looked for different uses of it. I know I personally went to the city of Houston and tried to get it put in their parks master plan for something that they would want to buy. I met with flood control, I met with county commissioners, and told them this is a major area for drainage because Keegan's Bayou runs through it to Brays, and that's a really dicey area when it comes to flooding. A neighborhood right downstream of it, most of it got bought out. So, but the city of Houston was not ready. They just weren't ready for it. So we finally, after the pandemic, we realized that property like this, where it was non-sellable before, was useful for distribution and logistics. You can pave over a dump and not puncture the cap. So we put it on the market and got amazing offers. I think, were you expecting offers like that? I was expecting offers like that. And they were great, and they were all within kind of the range. So 3 days before we were going to vote to approve it, City of Houston came and said, please talk to us. So we did. And we sold it to City of Houston for $10.5 million, under better terms than it would have been. We closed last year, at the end of the year. So from those proceeds, we can use those on capital projects. We're not going to take it and waste on operations because those are year to year, but we have $10.5 million. So that's amazing. I know it was amazing to the City of Houston too because we got a mention in the City of Houston State of the City address as well because I think for the whole region it's a benefit because it's going to benefit anyone in the Brays watershed when it comes to flooding. So I'm going to close the books on 2022 and talk about what we have to look forward to. Okay. Public safety. Mind you, 1/2 of our general fund budget, which is operating budget, is dedicated to public safety. We have salaries, we have infrastructure, but that's important. If you want to know what a city spends on, most cities spend it on that, and we do. The 2023 budget continues funding to ensure our first responders have the necessary tools and training to do their job efficiently and safely. We approved the purchase of assault vests and plate carriers that provide essential protection for officers in active shooter situations, which we did have a few years ago. We authorized the purchase of additional equipment for emergency response to national disasters and grace accountability for our fire department. I'm still asking for a Dalmatian and a canine for the police, but I have not gotten approval for that yet. But we do whatever the police come and we discuss and they need, they get it, and I think everybody feels that. Direct Link, I'm going to make another pitch for that. Direct Link is our city's alarm system. We continue to focus on increasing our subscribers, because not only does it make you individually safer, it makes the city safer. Westview is one of a very small handful of cities in Texas, maybe 6 to 8, who operate their own alarm monitoring system. You hit the button, you go straight to the city. You don't have to call whoever answers the phone, give them a password, then they call, and then they call you back. No, it goes to dispatch, and they're at your house in a minute. I mean, I can assure you, we've accidentally set it off, and they're there before I can call and say, don't call. It's amazing. And the good news is that it's only $35 a month, and it's in your water bill. So I think it's one of the best deals out there. Residents also see the great value. Over the last 2 years, we've seen a 7.5% growth in these services, with a total of 1,734 homes using our service. We still have a ways to go. We have, not every home is monitored, but we have another 1,343 homes that do have monitored alarms with other systems, and we'd love to see them move on over to the city service. And we do have flyers back there on it, and we have a dedicated officer that can talk to you about it. Quality of life, Weir Park improvements. Weir Park, some people call it Sunset Park. That is the next park that we're looking at to make better. The friends are working with us. We'll develop a conceptual plan for improvements, layout, drainage, accessibility, and updates to fixtures and amenities. After 10 years, things start to wear, and we want to keep our parks nice and safe for everybody. So it'll involve the Parks Board, who spends hours working through these things, Friends of Westview Parks, and the Weir Park User Group, people in the area. We, like anyone else, have staffing issues, so we have wage adjustment for part-time staff in Parks and Rec and contract employees in solid waste. The people on the back of the trucks are contract. So, but we have to adjust the pay to keep them. So we've provided market adjustments to our pay for time work and contract workers to ensure Westview remains competitive in a tight labor market. You want people who are throwing the bins around, people that aren't interested in what you're doing when they're helping in the parks. So these part-time employees are essential to our services in the Parks Department, and our contract workers are essential to collecting solid waste, recycling, and yard waste. That's one of those things that you don't see in the survey, but you'll know it when there's a problem. The city will hear about it. We commissioned the Sustainability Task Force at the beginning of this term, and we have made some sustainability efforts. We have installed smart water meters in the city's facilities to reduce overwatering. That's a big money saver, but it's also saves a lot of water. We've enhanced communications on sustainability. We've replaced our lighting with LED fixtures. We're considering energy modeling for new facilities above the minimum code requirements. Updating purchasing requirements across departments for standard goods and services, and maybe not in 2023, wait till the new building shakes out, but funding for an electric vehicle trial period. Communications, like I mentioned before, we're going to continue building on the success from 2022. Make sure everybody's informed who wants to be informed. We're going to have a new employee. We're funding a new employee in communications to help do the groundwork and to help communications efforts and messaging, so we can get it to you again quick and correct. Right, now back to fiscally responsible that I promised you I'd come back and talk about. We lowered our property tax rate for the 4th year in a row. We have one of the lowest rates in Harris County. There we are at the bottom. If you'll notice, this includes operating and debt service. And I think we've done a really good job. When we look at other cities like Meadows or Pearland, and they've got twice the rate, I think I may interview them and ask them how that's happened, because they have sales tax and we don't. We have a little bit of curry. We have the Jack in the Box. We've got, I mean, if you know our city, we don't have much sales tax. The most we get, I think, is from Amazon, now that the Wayfair case came out. So if you order from Amazon, you actually are supporting local government. So our tax rate is 38% lower than Bel Air and 48% lower than the city of Houston. And I don't know about you, but I think you would agree you receive great services for that, for what you pay to the city. And I know we talk about property tax relief, and people look at their bill, and there's one line at the bottom. I'm paying how much? We are one of the lower amounts that you're going to pay in that full property tax bill, and we're closer to you. I believe you get more services from us than any of the other places you pay. For every dollar paid on your entire property tax bill, we get 17 cents of it. Harris County gets 17 cents. Special districts, flood control, things like that, 15 cents, and HISD gets 50 cents. So go home, pull your tax bill out, and take a look at it. You can see how much you're writing a check to the city for. It used to be a separate check you would pay here, and you'd know how much you're paying, but now it's rolled in. So understand that we keep the budget lean, and you're getting great service. The average Westview taxpayer with a home valued at $1.35 million will pay the following in taxes to fund Westview operations and pay off debt, both $312 a month, or $3,751 per year. Monthly taxes that support annual operations, $217. That's your police, fire, and everything. Parks. Monthly taxes which pay off debt, which I was talking about capital projects that we keep our city well maintained, is $95. I think it's a great tax rate and a testament to your council and staff's fiscal stewardship. Transparency. We have taken steps to be more transparent. We have won gold awards, but we never want to stay still on this. We have approved a comprehensive financial policy document that you'll be able to find on the website. It formalizes long-standing best practices that we've been doing and places all our financial policies in one document for the resident, staff, and council to refer to for answers. Another step with transparency is the additional team member we're going to have in communications who will assist in furthering our outreach and information available to residents. So you don't have to ask twice. Here's another thing that you probably don't think about: software, unless you're in that business. We're updating our software and technology system. We're replacing our 15-year-old financial software. You know, 15-year-old financial software can cause problems. Think Southwest Airlines. And so we don't want that. With a more robust platform that will provide greater functionality, reporting, and oversight. It's the first of many phases in updating our aging software platform to ensure consistent and reliable services. We're also undertaking updates to our aging IT infrastructure, replacing switches, networking servers, radios, ensures reliable service, and improves overall security. Facilities master plan, as mentioned earlier, the city is currently under design on the new public works facility in the summer and fall, and undertaking a design with a lot of public input and more thought of the building we're standing in right now. and the senior services and the library. See what people want, if they want it. But if they do, we have ample plans in place. Another thing important to everybody is drainage. And I talked about west side drainage, taking active steps toward improving those drainage systems. I included it in 2022 because we budgeted for it and we're ready to start, but shovel ready 2023. I spoke about sidewalks and street. Phase 2 of the sidewalk replacement is $375,000. Well worth every penny to have people walking on the sidewalks and not have a trip hazard. Street repair is $440,000 for streets not identified in the west side and east side drainage projects. So the drainage projects will fix some streets, that's embedded in that, but the streets that need repair that don't have drainage, that's how much it's going to cost. Again, I think well worth every penny. Another thing you're not going to think about is sanitary sewer system. Our budget includes funds to complete the lining of our existing manholes, which will restore and strengthen their integrity and extend their life by approximately 25 years. We work to prevent infiltration of groundwater. You don't want groundwater coming into the sanitary sewer because all that goes to the wastewater treatment plant, and it increases our cost of processing water. So processing water is weeping into the system, and it increases wear and tear on the plant's equipment and treatment systems. So this $250,000 and $100,000 is also something well worth it, and we'll have to see benefits later. Lastly, a bigger expense, but important, improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. Most of you know where it is, but it's across the right from the Rice School, and it sits in a floodway on Ray's Bayou at Kirby. We are looking to change treatment processes so it's more efficient in the use of energy and chemicals, protect the plant from flood waters. During Harvey, our water didn't go off, but we shut it off before water came almost to the electric circuits, and people with two-story houses were asked to conserve their upstairs water. What we're going to do is new, better working system, and up higher so that we don't run the risk in a Harvey of any stoppage of our wastewater treatment plant during in an inundation like that. And although that was a 500-year event, it could happen this year, it could happen in any year. So during Harvey, we shut down the plant for 3.5 days due to flood water. Had it gone 12 inches higher, it would have wrecked the whole thing. So how far were we looking to build it up from what it is now? I love asking questions you don't know.
No, I don't want to say, but it's going to be 3 to 4 feet above the 500. And there's a diagram over there I'll kind of show you. And we'll have some other interesting, it shows the floodwater projections to go for. But it'll elevate it clearly above the floodwaters. That would be worse than Harvey. Had the floodwaters reached our motor control center in Harvey, instead of being down for 3.5 days, we would have been down for weeks. And no one thinks about their sewer until you say you can't flush your toilet.
Right.
So
up the street, right near 59, you see those. 4100 block and 4200 block on Wall Street. Maybe not near and dear to anybody's heart with the people that live on that block, but they are still hooked to City of Houston water. And we want to connect them to West 2 Water. They want to be connected to West 2 Water so they don't have oil notices. And they're fully integrated with us. And that should be done and worked on in 2023. We had to get permits from City of Houston, and we got those. We're going to do replacements to the Milton Street water main. It's a main from the 50s to the Milton Street water facility, and it is a $3.4 million project, but thanks to our Congresswoman Fletcher, we got $2.5 million, so that's going to be a lot less expensive for an amazing project. And then we have funds in our annual replacement to tackle our aging cast iron water lines before they fail. This proactive approach will help reduce water loss, increase reliability of our system, prevent us from being Jackson, Mississippi, So we're taking care of all that. So we're taking care of sewer, drinking water, drainage, everything. Right. Or farm ditch. All right, you got that up there before I got to it. It's a complicated issue. I'm going to break it into two parts though. Southern portion, which is south of University to Bel Air. Harris County Flood Control owns these ditches. So this ditch is 80 years old, at least. We have been negotiating with Harris County on the design and funding for 15 years. One thing I did in my last term was beg the county to put it in the water. And they did. 9 projects in Grays, the watershed got put in the bond and our little ditch got put in there. And there was $4.75 million in there, and the rest was going to come from partner funds, which haven't happened yet. In the last week, we've been working in the background for this. We haven't received it, but it's there. It's designated $10 million secured by our Congresswoman Fletcher. So that's a good start, but there's still a significant funding gap, and we're working with the county to try to fill that gap in with whatever we can do without Westview having to, and Southside, come out with money for that, because we pay quite a bit to flood control in the county, and I personally think it's time the county stepped up and helped us with our issue, because right now it can handle about a 10-year event, and it's supposed to handle a 50-year event. To the south of us in Brace Heights, it handles a 100-year event. So we need to get the water moving and out of Westview and not in our streets and homes. North portion, there's nothing imminent that's going to happen there. I mean, it has problems too. If you look at it, it's not in great shape, but it can still transport maybe a 50-year event. In December 2022, we approved a feasibility study to evaluate various alternatives for this portion of the ditch. One option in closing it and reclaiming its green space, and the other leaving it open. We felt this was necessary because approaching flood control or any other agency, you have to know what you've got, how much it costs, what kind of shape it's in, how long it's going to hold up. You can't just go in with your hands out and say, hey, we've got a ditch that has a problem. They're not going to do the work for you. So for minimal cost, we're going to have that and keep it in our pocket for what we would like to do in the future and what's doable and what may not be doable. So for instance, if in closing it doesn't work, if it restricts water, scratch it off the list. But at least we'll know. But we need to be equipped with information. I think that is key, is knowing where we stand on things. Ezra Street, as you know, from close to Westview Elementary all the way north to where Edlow dead ends before Bissonnet, there were oleanders. And during the 90s, or was it 2000, when did we do our sidewalk project?
Early 2000s to 07.
Early 2000s. The mayor at the time, what was important to him, sidewalks throughout the city and make it walkable, which is, I think, important. And that's one area we do not put sidewalks in because there were large plants. And that's just the way it was. The sidewalk was on the other side of the street. There are 6 streets, I think, that go through there, 6 that hit, maybe 12 driveways. There are a lot of hazards. 16 to 18 crossings that you have to do to get from the north part to the school. Kids go that way, people walk that way. The oleanders were decimated during Uri. They all died. When we cut them down, there was a flat, pretty unsightly but unused area. So putting a sidewalk in seemed logical since there's only one street that crosses there, a lot safer. So the Parks Board, and I have to extend thanks to them, they spent many meetings, coming up with the best way to make this area functional, safe, but look okay, because no one wants to look at an eyesore around the sidewalk. So we voted to accept the lowest bid to construct the improvements. I will be honest with you, I believe our architect gave us a low amount, is how much it was going to cost, and it ended up a little bit more, but we have the funds for it, and I think we are going to start this, and it should be done in May, June, and I look forward to see a lot of people using it. There are a lot of blind curves on that street, and I would feel bad for someone, I would feel worse than bad if something happened to somebody walking in the street trying to navigate, not wanting to walk on the sidewalk on the other side and get hit. So safe, walkable, it's a third of a mile. Here's something that I think y'all are going to find interesting. And again, if you took the survey, great. If you didn't, you're going to learn about it. We emailed it to everybody. We emailed it to residents. We advertised it on social media. We put it on the marquee. And we got 876 responses to our citizen satisfaction survey. And I think this is a good note that we're going to end up ending on, so I'm going to talk about it. We're going to post a survey on the website by the end of next week, and it will contain all of the results. We've heard me, members of council, staff extolling the virtues and benefits of living in Westview. We have great staff, high level of services, small town feel. After hearing the survey consultants report on Monday night, it reinforces that feeling. Westview residents overall are very pleased with our government and living in Westview. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of the results. The first part I will cover is very simple but powerful. Would you refer a friend to live in Westview? Overwhelming response was 87% that you would refer a friend to live in Westview. The consultant said in the 18 surveys over the last 2 years, this is the highest he's seen, and none of the other cities were close. And generally nice cities are doing these because it takes some foresight and thought and some pain and money to run these. So I was really proud of that. Other questions? Asked residents to identify the most important facilities to them and what were the best benefits of living in Westview. The most important facilities were parks, followed by the rec center, library, and Colonial Park pool. And the most important benefits of living in Westview are zoning and land use, to protect our residential character, and then our small town feel and being family friendly. Two other questions. What is most important when it comes to safety and security and most important operations provided by the city? Number 1, police. 2, fire and EMS. 3, virtual gate. 4, natural disaster preparedness. One of these had a 100% satisfaction rating. And what helps us with that is many of the other cities we saw, they would say fire is the most important, and it'd have about a 50% rating. So city is literally putting fires out trying to make what's most important to people better. We have, not that we lay back on it, but we have great satisfaction with police and fire, and you can go down the list further and see what people think are important that maybe we haven't met their expectation. I saw pickleball on there, and a few other things. Code enforcement was on there, and so was animal control, but I think that some of that was a holdover from not having an animal control officer. Most important city provided services, maintain our utility infrastructure, upgrades to stormwater system, and maintain streets, then sidewalks, then parks. So that's what people thought was important, and you're going to be able to see a lot of that there, but you're going to be able to go on our website and slice and dice it. It's an amazing thing you can look at. You can look at what area of the city they're in, age, gender, whether they have kids, whether they don't have kids, to see who's satisfied with what or what's most important to them. The last item were the questions compared to the surrounding cities, and are we going in a right or wrong direction? That was another question. If you took the survey, you'll know. 90% of you believe the city's going in the right direction when compared to other cities. 72% believe we're in a much better, and 21% believe we're somewhat better than the other cities surrounding us. The two numbers mean that 93% believe we're somewhat to much better than our surrounding cities. The results of this survey reinforce the excellent and professional work of our city staff. Everybody here, we got a lot in the back, in the front. The work of our residents, volunteering, we've got a lot in here that are on boards and commissions and do volunteer a lot of their time to make sure on whatever the respective board is, we're doing the right thing by the citizens. To ensure our codes, ordinances, services are reflective of our community standards. We're all citizen servants, the residents are, the people on council, we all want what's best for everybody. The work of our city's council and representing the community as a whole, and lastly, our residents who are our customers. Without your support, West would not be the great place we call home and our little slice of heaven. In closing, I want to thank you for attending tonight. I want to thank all our council members. We have Mayor Pro Tem John Montgomery. We have Councilmember John Barnes, Councilmember Shannon Carroll, and Councilmember Melanie Bell. We have our city manager, Dave Beach. A lot of people sometimes don't realize that we have a city manager that does the day-to-day operations. And it's my honor to serve you as mayor, and I wish you all a good night. And a great time. Please take a look at the boards. I'm here, staff's here. If you have any questions on what I said or what you see on this board or anything else, we're here to answer your questions.